Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. What an episode of Raw to kick off the new era. There is so much to talk about here. Before we get started, I wanted to make a quick plug. Tuesday evening at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, right before SmackDown Live, I will be doing a live chat on NoDQ.com. You can ask me anything you want about WWE. It is a live Q&A, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific time. Check it out, NoDQ.com/chat. And you can also check out the links that will be published on Facebook and Twitter. With that being said, let's get down to your questions now regarding Raw and other topics. Well, mainly just Raw. This first one comes from Michael. Wow, how does SmackDown Live top what Raw just did? That was a great kickoff for the brand split. What bag of tricks are left? That is an excellent question. WWE no doubt hit a major home run tonight. In my opinion, one of the best Raws of the past decade. They really got this new era off to a great start. I mean, it was almost a perfect Raw from start to finish. You had a new look for the show, and I'll get to that in a moment here. You had major events. You had a title change. Sasha Banks is the new women's champion. WWE went ahead and did that match here on Raw, which I thought was the right move to really get Raw off the ground and establish this new era. And then you had the two fatal four-way matches leading up to the main event to determine the number one contender for the new championship that will be on Raw, the Universal Championship. I'll get to more of that in a second here. It was a very eventful edition of Raw. We saw the return of squash matches. We saw Nia Jax destroy an opponent. We saw Braun Strowman look really impressive. Enzo and Cass looked really good. I mean, this show really did everything right. An excellent edition of Raw. Great first show. The question, of course, is can they keep the momentum going? As you said, what bag of tricks are left? Maybe a Roman Reigns heel turn? Who knows? But so far, so good. And hopefully WWE can keep the momentum going. The one thing that worries me is that over the years, WWE has started off strong and then the thing would turn to garbage, basically. I mean, it would really just be watered down and WWE would fail to keep the momentum going. You look over the years, like with the Invasion, they did that awesome show with the Alliance forming, and then there was really no solid follow-up after that. We've seen it time and time again where WWE would do this huge show to really get the ball rolling with a storyline, and then it would just fall flat. I'm hoping that's not the case here. I'm hoping that this brand extension stays red hot. We'll see what happens with it. Got this one here from Rab McFly. Hey Aaron, what do you think of the new stage and the return of the red ropes on Raw? Also, do you think Rollins versus Balor will happen? Well, he sent this question as Raw was in progress, and yes, Rollins versus Balor is now set for SummerSlam, and I'm assuming that that will be the match, and WWE will not do some sort of swerve to screw fans out of that match now that it has been established for SummerSlam. I like the idea of the new stage. I mean, I would have liked maybe even a little bit more tweaking, but still, any change is good. It's nice to have something, even if it's just a little bit different. A lot of people noted that the stage is very similar to what WWE had for SummerSlam back in 2012, 2013. So it was a slightly different stage from what we've been seeing over the past several years. Nothing too different. And of course, the return of the red ropes, which makes sense because Raw is the red brand and SmackDown is the blue brand. So why not have the colored ropes for each show? Makes complete sense to me. So yeah, I liked the changes. I'm glad we saw something different. And, you know, the logo, the Raw logo, I was not a fan of it when I first saw it, but I will say it looks better on television with the graphics than it did just as a plain logo with no background. So, you know, I think we'll all get used to it in time. Overall, I like the changes, and I like the fact that the announcers are back up by the stage again. I just like the different feel to Raw, and hopefully for SmackDown, there'll be a unique look to it that'll make it different from Raw. This one comes from Bret Frederick. What did you think of the new name for the Raw World title? I'm personally not a fan. The new title is being called the Universal title, and if Herb Abrams from the UWF back in the day was still alive, he would try to likely find a way to sue WWE. I'm not really a big fan of the name. It does sound very amateurish. It sounds like something an indie promotion or a backyard wrestling promotion might use for their world championship. I think there are other names out there WWE could have used. Even the Raw World title would have been better. Or just call it the World title, the World Heavyweight Championship. Since the WWE title is no longer being called the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, why not just go back to the way you had it before? If it's not broken, why fix it? I think they could have come up with a better name. But to me, that's nitpicking. That was really the only issue. And again, maybe in time it'll grow on us and, you know, it'll end up being just fine. But yeah, just from the initial reaction, I wasn't blown away by the name. And it appears a lot of people are not blown away by the name. That and the new logo, there's been some mixed reviews about. To put it mildly, I mean, more negative reviews than anything else. But like I said, in time, I think people will get used to it and things will be okay. This one comes from The Spectre. With Finn Balor's entrance having the Balor Club logo, does that mean that the club is revamped? Not necessarily. I do find it interesting, though, that Finn Balor had the Balor Club as part of his Titantron entrance. I'm sure that will definitely get fans questioning what's going on and wondering what that is about. I think that Finn Balor is best off being a babyface. He's red hot now with a ton of momentum coming off Raw, beating Roman Reigns to become the #1 contender for the new title. That is huge. And you have Anderson and Gallows as heels feuding with the New Day. I really don't see the need for Finn Balor to join up with Anderson and Gallows. So yeah, it is a bit confusing why he's doing the Balor Club thing when you have the club already, unless you're going to pair those guys up, which doesn't really make sense at this point. Balor's doing just fine on his own and doesn't need to be aligned with those guys. That's just my opinion. I mean, if he got aligned with them, it would almost be the same storyline with AJ in the club, and you know, no need to really repeat that storyline again. So I think that Finn Balor should probably not use that name, but I mean, if he's going to do it, he's going to do it, and if it sells merchandise, WWE will most certainly do it just for that reason. This one comes from Mr. Yuck. How do you suppose WWE will differentiate guys like Neville from the Cruiserweight division on Raw? Lots of unanswered questions. This is another really solid question. I'm not sure how you do this. I'm not sure how you differentiate Neville from the Cruiserweights. I mean, Neville is not really any bigger than most of the Cruiserweights that WWE is planning on bringing in. So how do you do that? How do you make it any different? Is it just that anybody wants to compete in the Cruiserweight division if they're a certain weight? How is that going to work exactly? I'm not really sure, but in the world of WWE, you know, logic usually takes a back seat, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case this time, and you just have a bunch of random guys in the Cruiserweight division, and then you have a bunch of other random guys that are really no bigger competing in the Heavyweight division. I mean, whatever. I'd like there to be some sort of logic and reasoning behind all of it, but I'm not expecting it at this point. Got this one here from Kyle Allen. Has Shane McMahon's WWE return been lackluster outside of WrestleMania and the night he returned? I would say to a degree. I think maybe fans were expecting more out of Shane McMahon, and when Shane took over Raw and we got that new era, it was really only about a week or two that it felt like a new era and things went back to normal. And this is really going back to earlier where I said that WWE is good at having a first hot week when they're starting a new storyline, and then things tend to fizzle out. That's what happened with Shane, and I'm hoping that's not the case here where things start to fizzle out and we're just back into the old Monday Night Raw pattern in a couple weeks, only with less talent than before because the rosters were split. So far, week one, they've done a great job, but it has to be consistent. WWE is not going to win back old fans and create new fans unless they are consistently producing compelling television. So yeah, I would say Shane's return was a bit lackluster. And then, of course, he wasn't appearing on Raw all that much. And now he's basically just going to show up when there's a reason for him to be on television. and it's mainly going to be Daniel Bryan in charge, Daniel Bryan in charge as the general manager, and Shane McMahon appearing every now and then on SmackDown. This one comes from Tom Squire. How's it going? So Roman Reigns is a beard. Start of a heel turn? I know it's only a change of look, but others have done the same. I was really hoping we were going to see a Roman Reigns heel turn on Raw. I even said on Twitter I would love it if Finn Balor pinned Roman Reigns clean. After the match, Roman Reigns just completely loses his cool and destroys Finn Balor. That would have been so awesome if WWE did that. Would have been the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity to do that heel turn, and it did not happen. All Roman said after the match, and by the way, I like the post-match interviews that WWE's doing as part of the show now. That's another nice touch, something different that we haven't seen in a long time. After the match with Finn Balor, Roman Reigns basically just said he hopes that Balor defeats Rollins at SummerSlam, and then he wants another shot at Balor, and that was the end of it. So I think it was a missed opportunity. I think that would have been the time to do the heel turn, and now I'm not so sure. I'm not sure if Roman Reigns will have a better opportunity to turn heel. I mean, if the writing was better in WWE, I would say yes, there will be better opportunities, but I don't know. Sometimes you just have to go with it, and sometimes the timing is right, and if you miss out on it, you miss out on it. I don't know what's going to happen with Roman Reigns. I mean, I think that perhaps he's losing these matches as punishment for the suspension, and once he reestablishes himself and stays out of trouble, the company will go back to making him the top babyface and doing that full-fledged redemption storyline. Would not surprise me if that happens, and this is just punishment, having Reigns lose these matches and putting over people, and then they're going to rebuild him up again as the top babyface. I hope they go in a different direction and do the heel turn, but not really expecting that to happen. This one comes from Blake. With Simon Gotch injuring Enzo and picking fights with Sin Cara backstage, do you think it'll hurt the Vaudevillians' push? Absolutely. I mean, we've seen it before. WWE will look for any excuse to stop pushing a talent or a group of talents. And if you cause any kind of trouble, I mean, you're expendable. WWE can easily replace you, especially if you're lower on the card. You screw up, somebody else is right there in line ready to take your spot if you screw up. So for some guys, they're walking on eggshells backstage and they really have to be careful. We really don't know a lot of details of what happened. Apparently there was some sort of backstage fight between Gotch and Sin Cara dominated the fight. That's really all we know. And I'm not sure what's going to happen for the Vaudevillains at this point, if they're even going to have a future in WWE. I mean, it wasn't looking good before, and now, I mean, this could be it for them. I really hate to say it. I mean, I think that act could have had a little bit more mileage with better writing, but at the end of the day, it burned out quickly, and I wasn't expecting it to have something with a lot of longevity, but now, any reason to take those guys off television, WWE will take them off, and it's going to be hard for them to bounce back from this, I think. Got this one here from the real TJP. Sami Zayn versus Nakamura or Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens? Who was Sami Zayn's best opponent this year? I would have to say the match with Kevin Owens was Sami Zayn's best match of the entire year. But, you know, the match with Nakamura was tremendous. Excellent match. And so was the Fatal 4-Way a couple months ago. I think that I would go with Zayn versus Owens only because of the backstory and the story of the match. I mean, Zayn really came off as the ultimate underdog, and this match was really a grudge match to settle their feud once and for all. So with all the backstory, and then of course the end with Zayn hesitating, not wanting to continue punishing his longtime friend, but knowing he had to do it to win the match, that is great storytelling in my opinion. That is actually quality professional wrestling storytelling, and to me that put that match over the top. Nakamura, that was the novelty of him debuting, and that's what made that match special. But to me, with the storyline, Zayn and Owens, I mean, that's been years in the making. all the build-up, all the video packages, all the promos, and then the match totally delivers. I think that gets the overall nod for the best match from Sami Zayn in 2016. All three of them are Match of the Year contenders in my opinion. This one comes from Trav Clark. Is it too late to draft a decent play-by-play dude for Raw? Seriously, Cole was effing terrible at Battleground. Your thoughts? I felt the commentary was fairly weak at Battleground, and I'll tell you what a difference a night makes. What a difference a slight change in the commentary team makes. I thought the commentary was way better on Raw with Corey Graves replacing JBL. That alone made a huge difference, and Cole brought his A game. Whether it was because of Corey Graves being there or because of the fact that this was the first new Raw and all these things were going down, Michael Cole was way better than usual on Raw, and he was showing some passion and excitement that we haven't seen from him in years, to the point where by the end of the show, he was losing his voice. And to me, that shows he was really putting the effort in this week to this show. And Cole stepped it up, Corey Graves stepped it up, and that's another good thing about this week's Raw. The announcing was definitely better than usual, and I'm hoping that Ronaldo will bring out the best in JBL, and maybe we'll see a more passionate and a more focused JBL than we've seen in the past. Got this one here from RIP Mitch. Who do you think will be the one to defeat Rusev for the US title? Neville, Cesaro, Sami Zayn? I'd love to see Sami Zayn win it. Right now, it's not really clear what direction WWE is going in for SummerSlam for Rusev and the US title. I would really like to see Sami Zayn go for it. I know some people would like to see Cesaro go for it. I mean, really, all three of them would be solid contenders. But with Sami Zayn being red hot right now, I'd love to see the US title get elevated and let Sami Zayn win a singles title in WWE, which he hasn't done yet. That would be an awesome moment. We've seen him as the underdog, and he's red hot right now with a ton of momentum coming off that win over Kevin Owens. I think that would be the best way to elevate the title, but at the same time, I think that if WWE goes forward with this Cesaro storyline and he can get red hot off of it, then that might be a logical choice for SummerSlam. But yeah, any three of those guys I think would be solid. I would really be fine with either one of those three going for the title at SummerSlam. Alright, this one comes from XX Panda Boy. What did you think about the idea of Cesaro being fired from Raw and taken in by SmackDown instead of a trade? I think that would be a nice alternative to just having Cesaro being traded. I mean, to me that's boring and not very exciting of a storyline. I think that if you booked Cesaro like a rebel, especially like a rebel from the waist down, you could have him just do all sorts of crazy antics, be like Steve Austin or CM Punk, and get himself fired from Raw. And at that point, Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon step in and say, hey, let's bring this guy to SmackDown. He's too talented to not be in WWE. And that's when you reestablish Cesaro on SmackDown. And he's really over as a result of being a rebel on Raw and getting himself fired. So I'm all for that storyline. I think that would be a great way to utilize Cesaro, and WWE could be creative with it. Every week Cesaro's doing something controversial to piss off Stephanie and Mick Foley, and finally they have no choice but to get rid of him. And maybe Cesaro does the big swing to Stephanie, and that's the final nail in the coffin for his run on Raw. There's a lot of different things WWE could do with that, but will they? That remains to be seen. Got this one here from Cameron Hutton. Do you think one brand pay-per-view should only be 2 hours or stick with the 3 hours? The problem with 2 hours is that it makes the show seem less important than Raw, and that's weird to say, but a 3-hour show feels more important than a 2-hour show. When you cut back to 2 hours, just the length of it makes it feel less important. At least that's how I see it. Maybe some people feel that a 2-hour show would be just as big as a 3-hour show with the right matches. I don't know. I'd rather see Raw be 2 hours and the pay-per-view stay at 3 hours, but we know that's not going to happen. And WWE, if anything, is moving in the other direction. They're trying to make the pay-per-views like 4 hours now, and sometimes even longer than that. So I would not expect that to happen. And, now with the era of the WWE Network, WWE could cut back on pay-per-view time, but I don't see them doing that. I think they're just looking to keep increasing time to these shows, and I wonder if there's a limit. I wonder if a year from now we're going to have 5-hour shows. We have WrestleMania, but how long will it be until you have multiple pay-per-views going 5 hours? I really hope that's not the case. I think they should just leave it at 3, but wouldn't surprise me if they keep adding more and more time to these shows and just continuing to oversaturate the product, which I think is a mistake in the long run. This one comes from Connor Davies. Do you think WWE should have drafted some main roster superstars to NXT? For superstars to reinvent themselves. No, I'm not a fan of WWE demoting people by drafting them to the developmental brand. I mean, that would pretty much bury anybody to be demoted like that and sent back to the developmental league. I think that would be a huge mistake, and it would not make those guys look good at all. I think it would be better just to take some of those guys off television and just let them quietly go back to NXT for a while and rebuild their skills and then reintroduce them on Raw, rather than make a big announcement and make a big deal out of it. Say, hey, this guy's not good enough, he's going back to NXT. I think that would definitely do some serious damage to the people being drafted to NXT. Got this one here from The Undertaker Guy. Can Nia Jax be Stephanie's personal bodyguard and be pushed to the top of the women's division, or how would you book her? I like what they're doing with her so far, having her win squash matches, let her come out week after week and destroy women and be the anti-diva, even though there are no real divas anymore. It's the women's division, but let her be a monster. Let her be what Karma was supposed to be when she came into WWE, and just let her be the female Godzilla in WWE, just destroying one person after another. And yeah, you could even do that. You could even have Nia Jax be the bodyguard for Stephanie. I think that would be a great idea. Maybe Cesaro does the big swing to Stephanie, gets fired, and then Stephanie needs a bodyguard. See how easy it is to write these shows? But WWE doesn't really put much effort into the writing. Like I said, this was a great Raw this week, but you need great writing on a weekly basis, and you can only rely on gimmicks like title changes and tournaments to get you through every week. That'll do it for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com. This is a crazy ass week. Tons of news up on the site right now. Like I said earlier, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time on NoDQ.com. I will be doing a live chat, NoDQ.com/chat, or stay tuned for the links that will be posted on Facebook and Twitter. I will be answering your questions for a half hour before SmackDown Live kicks off. So stay tuned for all that, and I will see you guys next time for more NoDQ&A video.